But I think now it's more a matter of maybe exaggerating some of the poses because the timing and the feeling of it is good. So it might just be a stronger, getting stronger breakdown poses in there to kind of really give it that juiciness that I feel like would make it that next level of sweet. All right. Okay. Yeah, let me frame through that actually. Yeah, so I think part of it is here, when he's doing this run, I think you could get a lot more kinetic energy out of it just by adjusting some of the components of his pose for a stronger line of action. So like, as he's pushing off, it might feel better to like raise that knee so that one knee is kind of crossing in front of the bent leg a little bit more. Raising the shoulders a little higher, perhaps. And then as he's starting to push off, it's like I kind of just want to feel a stronger diagonal in this pose. You might have to cheat a few components of it because I know he's running in perspective, but it's like getting more of just like a diagonal thrust to it. Yeah, and then when you get to here, yeah, so you might actually have to have this foot plant happen a little further over to give you that diagonal. And I think that would actually make it easier to have the other leg cross in front as well. So yeah, this whole foot plant of his right foot would happen further over so you can get this like, this strong line of action here. And this foot could come down a little further up. And you could get like a more exaggerated straight there. You can even exaggerate the perspective on those hands a little bit. And I like here that his weight's kind of giving out just a little bit, like his leg is, it's okay to have a little bit of scoot there with his foot because he's kind of like slipping off balance as he's collapsing into it. I would start to kind of collapse him from the hips just a little bit more so you get like this, this bowing effect as he's coming down. And then as this leg straightens out, it like unbows his body a little bit because his foot's kind of slipping. And then you can even cheat the knees a little bit if you have to, because I sometimes do that where I'll either move the knee aim to get a stronger diagonal, or I'll just like do that control where you can pin the knee to the control so that you get like a more dynamic placement of the leg shape.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then this one, you could even stretch. Like sometimes I'll stretch part of the leg a little bit. So, because you're making contact with this knee first. So you're almost like extending this like you would extend a foot on a foot contact. And then this arc is still following through, but you can bring it out a little bit more. Yeah, and even getting a bigger change right here where the fingers are very extended, and then they go to like a deep clutch on that fabric. So you get this really like crisp, like yank feeling on there. So you see the fingers close in that fist form, and then you get a straight on her jacket there as he, commits to that clutch. And because he's pulling his shoulders in, that can obscure part of his face a little bit. And because he's falling, there's like this feeling of the shoulders coming up as the body's coming down.
Mm-hmm.
And then now that this knee has made contact, you can kind of have the body catch up with it a little bit. I think what's going to help this is just separating the contacts on the knees a little bit and just almost thinking of them like foot contacts that go plump, plump, like that. And the control, I use the control that pins the knee. It stretches the leg, but it pins the knee to the locator a lot.
Yeah.
Makes it really easy to control that stuff and get satisfying like squash and stretch with consistent spacing. So you're not like counter animating a knee control or something like that. Yeah, and then keeping this one pinned where it is as this weight all comes down. Okay, so now I would treat this as like your contact frame for this knee. Like now this one is touching. And that foot is still dragging a little bit. This one's firmly planted at this point. And now you get like a nice squash on this one as his body is kind of now collapsing into this. So you like went from a reversed spine as he was coming down to now that both knees are making contact, the spine is going the other way.
Mm-hmm. But when you said squash the knee, it's not.
I mean,
I can't remember if
I'm exaggerating.
Like it's not really like scaling it, but just like in a way showing the four. Like
it's kind of, I mean, I'm scaling it because if I was doing it in 2D, that's what I would do. I would kind of squash it a little bit. If you can't do it in CG, it's just the frame where it begins to get pinned to that spot, right? So that you feel a really clear contact from it.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess in a way I was scared to like shorten the legs too much.
Uh-huh.
I guess I just have to commit.
If they get too short, then I think it would be to your advantage to actually just bring them forward a little bit so that you get more, because you don't want them to be like, you don't want it to be like from the side, like that, where suddenly this area got really short. I think it would make more sense to just bring them forward so that you're maintaining the length of the upper leg. And then that would be more in balance that way anyway. Instead of what it looks like now where he's kind of leaning forward and the legs are straight, kind of like that. I don't think it's going to feel as natural even in perspective unless you bring the knee forward a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like when you get to here, maybe it's bringing that one forward a little more, and then when the other one makes contact, you could have landed that one a little farther forward as well. And I think that'll set you up for nicer posing through this whole section here. Because you won't be cheating the length of his legs, and his center of gravity will be balanced because his head and chest are coming forward and his hips are back and then the knees are coming forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think also just exaggerating, like once you get those knees in a good spot for that, like set him up well for for this pose, right? Like once he stops moving, give yourself like a good target to hit where the knees are in a good spot, his hips are back, his arm and his chest are forward. Like set yourself up for that pose, and then still follow the principles of what we talked about here, where you're getting this like double like contact and then contact. And then I would have his hips do a little bit more of a down and up scoop as the knees absorb that weight, you know?
Yep.
So even though the knees are in the same spot, you're still getting, you know, like a down and an up compression from it. Cool. Then these hands you can have a little bit more in perspective, so you get this like that shape of him, you know, gripping the jacket, like
yeah. More an angle.
More at an angle, exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. And then when she pushes him away, I think you could bring the shoulder up a little higher, like to get more torque, which is that is to say twist in the body here. If she's raising this shoulder up and moving this body, moving this upper body away as she's like turning her head this way. So there's just like a more of a twist feeling to it.